and our carbohydrates are going to be, those glucose chains are going to be broken down, and we store them. Store it as glycogen. That glycogen is going to be our immediate fuel source that we're using when we start to exercise. The glycogen that we are acquiring from our carbohydrates is burned very, very quickly, and then what is burned or what is stored from our fat is what we use as reserves and what kicks in after those carbs are burned. So yet again, why it's important to make sure that we're balanced and we're getting what we need: carbs, fats, proteins. And before I move on, I think it's important to remember, we talk about endurance athletes and we think, oh, our cross-country runners, we think about triathletes, etc. Think about it as, well, how many nights a week are your kids practicing? And how long are your practices? I've sat at some of your practices, they're 2, 3, I've sat at marathon practices before in my day, 4 or 5 hour practices. Well, that's over 90 minutes, and the kids are active the entire time, and they're repeating those 3 to 5 nights a week or 6 days with a Saturday game. I now consider them to be, quote unquote, endurance athletes. So they need to be eating as if that's what they are, even though, it's football or it's baseball. They're still working out. They're still breaking down these nutrients in their body, so it's got to be adequate. So what do your pregame meals look like, taking into consideration what our student athletes need? Well, most of the time, and I've put on and had to lose weight because of pregame meals, they work out, I don't. I sit on the sideline and watch. So what are we eating? Well, Chick-fil-A's a go-to. Sometimes we'll go Subway, Burger King, McDonald's, is tons of pizza after the basketball game. Are these the best things that we can be giving our student athletes? Chick-fil-A's great, use them, but what is something else on the menu that is going to be better for them? Fried chicken sandwich, or can we do chicken noodle soup? Oh, it's got fluid in it. It's chicken broth, a little bit better for us. Can we do a chicken salad sandwich and fruit versus the fries? So still use these places if it's within your budget, if that's what you have access to, but make some healthy choices. And try to stay away from the fried, the greasy, the fatty. Sugar, lots and lots of sugar. Well, a cookie or two before a game is going to give that quick burst of energy, but is it going to fuel us the whole time? Should they be eating these processed sugars all the time? Could we give them a bowl of fruit instead? Would that be better? It's going to accomplish the same thing, quick burst of energy, that quick simple glucose that we need immediately after a long day, but it has more of a nutrient dense quality than these delicious looking chocolate chip cookies. Would you guys eat those meals if you were going to go run 12 miles? Well, probably not. So think about your student athletes. Just because they're 12 doesn't mean that they don't need to have something healthy. They need a good nutrition. Pre-game. Think sustainable, what's going to fuel them for the long term. You're typically eating 2 to 3 hours before the event. So those simple sugars, they're going to break down, they're going to be immediately available. What's going to break down in 2 to 3 hours? What's going to break down overnight? So you got to kind of think about the complex versus the simple and pick those good healthy things, decide when do you want to eat. And you want to give them things that are going to stay with them for a long time. Homemade granola, no sugar added granola versus just really processed granola bars. You just got to do a little bit of homework and read those nutrition labels, look at the ingredients on the back of the boxes to find the better options. I really like this quote a lot, and sitting through Gatorade Sports Science Institute, if you're really interested in nutrition, it's a great place to look. Go to Gatorade, you'll see the Sports Science Institute tab on the website. Lots of research goes into it. They spend a lot of time with our professional athletes, and they'll tell you, nutrition is something that I put into my everyday. Do they splurge? Absolutely. Who doesn't want a hamburger or sliced pizza at some point? But is what is constantly in their diet? Absolutely not. And a lot of them will tell you their mindset is, what is going to make me better? What is going to make me better? And that will usually get them over those heavy cravings and keep them on that healthy diet. So healthy options: grilled sandwiches, deli sandwiches with lean turkey, ham, chicken, grilled pastas. Anytime you can go more on the grilled side than the fried side, you're making a much healthier option. So really looking at menus, but nowadays you can access menus in the towns that you're traveling to. You can look around the area that you are and find their menus ahead of time. You can pre-order, so you can pre-order everybody the same thing. And that way they're not having to make these choices on their own, because a lot of kids don't really know what they should be eating. This is kind of an advanced concept for a lot of them. Some, probably their mothers, dictate their diet, and they're probably pretty healthy. So when they're with you, they like to go a little crazy, so you kind of have to think about these things. So Chipotle style meals, rice, beans, lettuce, tomatoes, and a good lean meat, healthy options. Some visual aids here, white bread versus something like whole grain, whole wheat bread. Again, make sure it's not the processed white wheat. Make sure because they'll trick you with the words. Whole grain, whole wheat bread, Ezekiel bread, breads that you can see the grains in there. You can see the pieces of the wheat that is in the bread. Those are going to be better options, healthier options than just your white Wonder Bread, even though it tastes fabulous. Adding a lot of fruits, adding a lot of vegetables, straight up, is going to be a lot better for our student athletes, giving them the fuel that they need. Salads, do pay attention to these though, because where they get you is not with the salad itself, it's with added craisins. So craisins or raisins everywhere, I mean, it's just straight up sugar, added sugar to these things in the salad dressings. So pay attention to that. You're going to be better off with just oil and vinegar or a fat-free, sometimes fat-free, but you've got to pay attention to the sugar. Now, they need that simple sugar to get going, but eating this constantly can become a bit of an issue. Breakfast options, as Mom says, the most important part of your day, and it's also where you can get a lot of your healthy carbohydrates. So eggs, turkey, bacon versus the good stuff. Whole grain toast, whole grain bagels, oatmeal. There's a lot of different options here. You just got to be smart. Lean versus whole fat, etc. Snack options, mixed dried fruits. Gonna be a little better for you than the cookies. You still will find some refined sugars in here, so go as natural as possible. Organic, make your own decision about that. That's a whole nother lecture that can go on for 4 days. Fresh fruits, again, as close to nature as you can get it, the better it's gonna be for our bodies to use and give you better energy. So again, fruit cups, no sugar added, just water packed is going to be healthier than the store-bought granola. Again, that nice little stringy pull that you get, more than likely it's some form of marshmallow. I mean, it's just straight up sugar. Post-game meal. Now, I can get on a bandwagon about this. Pre-game meal is important. It should be part of your typical nutrition. This is where I think a lot of people are lacking, and when I talk to student athletes, they'll tell me a lot of the time they have trouble the next day. Right? So I worked a lot of baseball in my career, and my pitchers would come and they're like, the next day, they're just like, I'm dragging. Not only do my legs and my arm hurt, and I want to go run, but I just don't have the energy to run to get rid of all the lactic acid in my arms and in my arm and my legs. So we'll start talking about nutrition, and I'm finding out they stop pitching 5th, 6th inning. If they're a starter, we're pulling them out 5th, 6th inning, or once they hit their pitch count. Well, they're sitting out there for the double header. They're sitting out there for another good 4 or 5 hours before they even get a meal in them. Well, that starting pitcher, I mean, they just did sometimes 90 minutes worth of work if they weren't throwing strikes. They've done a lot of work. Well, they haven't refueled. Well, no wonder they're sluggish the next day. So when we look at post-game meals, within 30 minutes of completing exercise, be it their practice, be it a game, be it workout session, within 30 minutes you need to start consuming and replacing your carbohydrates. And I tell them it's something as simple as grabbing a 32-ounce Gatorade and a wholesome granola bar without a lot of sugar, replace those carbohydrates. So you have to think of it as a gas tank, right? So if this is my gas tank, I want to start replacing, and I'm filling that gas tank up at least halfway, if not a little bit more. And then within about 2 hours, I want to start getting protein in. So actually sit down, have a meal with carbs, with proteins, with fats, and get my fluids. Then I keep refueling as I go within that 24-hour period of time before my next workout. So my gas tank is full. When I'm missing that 30-minute to 2-hour window of replacing my carbohydrates, that reuptake of those nutrients, when I miss that, I only get my gas tank full about halfway when I start my next workout. So I'm missing a ton of energy points that I can use towards my next workout, and I'm not going to be as effective if I'm missing that. So that post-game meal is very, very important. So carbs within first 30 minutes, just slam your body with carbohydrates, and then within 2 hours, you got to have your protein base. Then it's just normal meals as it goes. The snacks that you need, you got to fill that gas tank up. So the takeaway here, 30 minutes of carbohydrate, 2 hours, start getting a protein in. During competition, it's fluids. Unless you're looking at a triathlete who's just burning up their fat stores and their energy stores. Now, of course, they're gonna have to replace with something, and there's all sorts of fun, interesting things that is done there. But for your kids, what you're looking at, if you're like in a soccer tournament that's all day, you should have lacrosse tournaments, you should have breaks through there where you can add back in the snacks and the meals, the healthy competition foods. But the main thing during competition is your fluids. Water is cheap, it's available. I think water is all that you need during your workouts, unless their diet is just greatly missing the electrolytes, and we'll add those back in once they start to visit us. That needs to be done beforehand. Water during competition, I think, is really all you need, unless we're starting to get into very long events in which, you got to start adding those electrolytes in. And my rule of thumb is about a 90-minute workout. After 90 minutes, that's when I need to start adding my electrolytes and my Gatorades back in. Anything less than that, your athletes should be okay with water as long as their nutrition is pretty decent. Electrolytes: calcium chloride, magnesium, phosphorus, potassium, and sodium. And what your electrolytes are doing is allowing the fluids to move in and across the borders of your cells through your vessels in the body to keep nice and hydrated. When you don't have these, then the fluids cannot be used appropriately, and we get into a dehydration situation. You can make some homemade electrolyte drinks using juice, adding like baking soda, lemon juice, some sort of acid, some sort of sugar in with it. Coconut water, excellent hydrator if your athletes can tolerate it. I can't stand the stuff. I stick with my watered down Gatorade. I dilute my Gatorade. That's what I use. I don't like coconuts. Whatever floats them, whatever they like. Funding options. Talk to boosters, talk to parents, see what their advice is, see what they have available. Do you, one of your student athletes, one of their parents work at Kroger, work at Publix, manager, get deals. A lot of times you can find big box stores, you can find grocery stores, restaurants who stock things once they've hit an expiration date. They can't sell them on the shelf, but they're still perfectly fine. You get really creative on how to supply these things to your student athletes. Homemade stuff typically will be a little bit cheaper. You can buy in bulk at Costco, and then get your booster parents, get some of those moms together to get in the kitchen and make stuff for the whole team. You just gotta be creative with this sort of stuff. So here's all my references if you can't sleep, it's something to get you there. You read through some of these things. My favorite is the Anderson book. It's really, really good. And then the Anderson article, and then the Ryan book at the end, Sport Nutrition for Endurance Athletes. It's an excellent resource if you're curious. Questions? It was quick. Questions?